The woman in row 12 stood up. Nobody noticed at first. But when she raised the yellow firefighter helmet above her head, the entire studio froze. Jimmy Fallon was in the middle of a joke. Something about his daughters and a failed cooking experiment. The audience was laughing, right on cue. The Roots were playing a light groove behind him. It was a Tuesday night taping, routine and smooth, the kind of show Jimmy could do in his sleep after 15 years of hosting. Then movement in the audience caught his eye. Peripheral vision, the kind of awareness you develop when you perform live every night. Someone standing. Row 12, right side. A woman, maybe early 40s, brown hair pulled back. Jimmy kept talking, years of training keeping his rhythm steady even as his attention split. Audience members stood up sometimes. Bathroom breaks, feeling faint, nothing unusual. But something about the way this woman stood was different. Deliberate. Purposeful. She raised both arms above her head. In her hands, a bright yellow firefighter helmet. Jimmy's joke died mid-sentence. His voice just stopped, the punchline hanging undelivered in the air. The audience, confused by the sudden silence, turned to see what he was looking at. 300 people shifted in their seats. Heads swiveling. Following Jimmy's frozen stare to row 12. The woman stood perfectly still, helmet held high like an offering or a beacon. Her face was wet with tears, but her posture was strong. Dignified. She wasn't collapsing. She was claiming space. The Roots stopped playing. Questlove's drumsticks hovered midair. The studio went completely silent except for the hum of cameras and lights. Jimmy set his blue note cards down slowly on the desk. His hand was shaking slightly. "Ma'am?" His voice came out rough, uncertain. Is everything okay?" The woman nodded. She lowered the helmet to chest level, cradling it like something sacred. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the studio, strong despite the tears. "Mr. Fallon, my name is Sarah Chen. This is my husband's helmet. And I need to tell you something." The cameras found her. Close up on her face, on the helmet, on the number painted on its side, 347. Jimmy stepped out from behind his desk. Not the performative stepping out he did for comedy bits. This was instinct. Something in her voice, in the way she held that helmet, pulled him forward. "Your husband," Jimmy said carefully. Is he here tonight?" Sarah's face crumpled for just a second before she pulled it back together. "He's at New York Presbyterian Hospital. About 12 blocks from here. He's been there for 6 weeks." The audience was dead silent. You could hear individual people breathing. "He asked me to come tonight," Sarah continued. "He made me promise. He said if I could get tickets, I had to stand up and show you this helmet. He said you'd understand why." Jimmy was standing at the edge of the stage now, hand shading his eyes against the lights, looking up at row 12. I'm not sure I understand. Can you tell me?" "His name is Marcus Chen. He's been a firefighter for 19 years. FDNY, Ladder Company 347. And 6 weeks ago, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer." The words landed like physical blows across the studio. Several audience members made small sounds, gasps, stifled sobs. Sarah's voice stayed steady. "The doctor said he has maybe 4 to 6 weeks left. Maybe less. He can't leave the hospital anymore. He's too weak. But every night, when he's awake, he watches your show. He's watched you for years. You make him laugh when nothing else can." Jimmy's hand came up to cover his mouth. His eyes were already wet. 3 nights ago," Sarah said, "Marcus woke up from sleeping and the first thing he said to me was, 'I need you to go to the Tonight Show. I need you to find a way to get tickets.' I told him I'd try. I called every number I could find. I explained the situation. And someone," her voice broke, "someone in your audience department got me these tickets for tonight." What Jimmy didn't know yet, what nobody in the studio knew, was that Marcus Chen had been watching The Tonight Show since 2014, the year Jimmy took over as host. The year Marcus almost quit being a firefighter. Marcus had been struggling with PTSD. Years of responding to fires, accidents, traumas. He'd seen too much. Carried too much. He was having panic attacks before shifts, couldn't sleep, was pulling away from his wife and daughter. He'd written a resignation letter and put it on his captain's desk. That night, he went home and turned on the TV, unable to sleep. The Tonight Show was on. Jimmy Fallon was interviewing a veteran who'd started a program helping other veterans through comedy and music. The conversation was light but real. Honest. Jimmy asked questions that showed he actually cared about the answers. Something about that interview, the kindness in it, the genuine human connection, made Marcus pick up his phone and call a therapist. The resignation letter never got signed. He got help. He stayed a firefighter. He stayed alive. For the next 10 years, Marcus watched Jimmy's show religiously. After hard shifts. After bad calls. When the PTSD flared up. Jimmy's voice, his laugh, his obvious love for people became a kind of medicine. And now, in a hospital room 12 blocks away, Marcus was watching this moment unfold on the TV mounted above his bed. Sarah continued, her voice stronger now. Marcus said to tell you that you saved his life once, even though you didn't know it. He said your show gave him a reason to keep going when he didn't have one. And now, even though he's dying, watching you every night makes him feel like he's still living. Jimmy was crying openly now, no attempt to hide it. He looked at the producers in the wings, then back at Sarah. Is your husband watching right now? Sarah nodded. Yes. He's watching. Jimmy walked to the camera. Camera 1, the main camera that broadcast to millions. He looked directly into the lens. When he spoke, his voice was thick but clear. Marcus. Brother. I don't know what to say except thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for every fire you fought, every person you saved, every day you showed up even when it was hard. He paused, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. You say I saved your life once. But you saved lives every single day for 19 years. You're a hero. You're my hero. And if watching this silly show helped even a little bit, then this whole thing, all of it, has been worth it. The audience erupted. Not polite applause. Real, thunderous, cathartic applause. People were standing. Crying. Sarah was sobbing openly now, clutching the helmet to her chest. But Jimmy wasn't done. He turned to his stage manager in the wings. How long until we have to go to commercial? 6 minutes. The stage manager called back. Cancel it, Jimmy said. Cancel all the commercials. I don't care what we have scheduled. We're not moving on. He looked back up at Sarah. Would you come down here? Please? Sarah made her way down from row 12, other audience members touching her shoulders as she passed, offering support and love. When she reached the stage, Jimmy helped her up the steps. They stood together under the lights, Sarah still holding the helmet. Tell me about him, Jimmy said softly, just to her but into the microphone so everyone could hear. Tell me who Marcus is. And Sarah did. She talked about how they met in college. How Marcus always wanted to be a firefighter, even as a kid. How he proposed to her on the Brooklyn Bridge. How their daughter Emma, now 16, inherited his courage and his terrible sense of humor. How Marcus still left notes in Sarah's lunch bag every morning, even from his hospital bed. Little jokes and drawings that made her laugh through tears. She talked for maybe 3 minutes. The studio stayed silent except for her voice and the occasional sob from the audience. When she finished, Jimmy asked, Can I see the helmet? Sarah handed it to him. Jimmy turned it over in his hands, looking at the scratches and scorch marks, the number 347 painted in white, the FDNY logo. This wasn't a prop. This was real. Decades of service marked into yellow plastic and metal. Sarah, Jimmy said, I want to do something if you'll let me. And if Marcus is watching, I want him to hear this too. He set the helmet carefully on his desk, the same desk where he'd interviewed presidents and movie stars and musicians. The helmet sat there, impossibly humble and impossibly powerful. Jimmy pulled off his suit jacket. Then, slowly, deliberately, he loosened his tie and pulled it over his head. It was dark blue with small silver stars. A tie he'd worn on important episodes before. "This tie belonged to my father," Jimmy said, his voice breaking again. "He gave it to me when I got this job. He told me to wear it on nights that mattered. Nights when I needed to remember why I do this." He folded the tie carefully and placed it inside the helmet. "I want Marcus to have this. I want him to know that tonight mattered. That he matters. That every single person whose life he touched matters. And I want him to have something from my father to remind him." Jimmy had to stop, compose himself. To remind him that he's not alone. That we're all here. That we see him. Sarah collapsed into Jimmy's arms, sobbing. He held her, this stranger who'd stood up in his audience with a yellow helmet and broken open the entire night. The audience was standing again, applauding, crying, bearing witness to something that transcended entertainment. After a moment, Sarah pulled back and looked at Jimmy. "Can I tell you the real reason Marcus sent me here tonight?" Jimmy nodded, unable to speak. "He wanted me to say thank you. But he also wanted me to ask you something." She took a shaky breath. "Our daughter Emma. She's terrified. She doesn't know how to say goodbye to her dad." Marcus thought. He wondered if maybe you could record a video message. Something she could watch after he's gone. Something to remind her that it's okay to laugh even when you're sad. That her dad would want her to keep laughing. Jimmy didn't hesitate. "I'll do better than a video. What's her name again?" "Emma. Emma Chen." Jimmy turned to the audience. "Is there an Emma Chen in this audience tonight?" Movement in row 11, right behind where Sarah had been sitting. A teenage girl stood up slowly, uncertainly. She had her mother's face and what must have been her father's dark hair. "Emma," Jimmy called out. "Would you come down here too?" The girl made her way down, shaking, tears streaming down her face. When she reached the stage, Sarah pulled her close. Jimmy crouched down slightly to be at Emma's eye level. "Your dad is one of the bravest people I've ever heard of. And you know what takes even more courage than running into fires? Loving people even when you know you might lose them. Your mom has that courage. And I think you do too." Emma nodded, unable to speak. "I want you to know something," Jimmy continued. "Years from now, when you think about your dad, I want you to remember that he spent his whole life making sure other people got to keep living. He gave that gift to so many families. And the fact that he's watching this show, that he sent your mom here tonight, that he's thinking about you even now, that tells me he's still fighting to give you every single moment he can." Jimmy stood and addressed camera 1 again. "Marcus, if you're still watching, and I really hope you are, I want you to know that Emma's going to be okay. Because she comes from you. She has your courage. And whenever she needs to remember that, she can watch this. She can watch this moment, and know that her dad's love reached all the way through a TV screen to millions of people. That's immortal, brother. That's forever. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it, because stories like this deserve to be heard." The show didn't continue as planned. Jimmy canceled the remaining segments. He sat on the stage with Sarah and Emma, the yellow helmet between them, and they just talked. About Marcus. About life. About grief and love and the weird, terrible, beautiful gift of time. 12 blocks away, in room 614 at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Marcus Chen watched on his TV screen. His nurse later reported that he smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. He pointed at the TV when he saw his helmet on Jimmy's desk, when he saw his tie inside it. He died 9 days later, surrounded by family, that blue tie with silver stars draped across the foot of his hospital bed. At the funeral, firefighters from Ladder Company 347 lined the streets. And in the front row, Emma Chen sat holding her father's helmet, with Jimmy Fallon's tie still folded carefully inside. She's never taken it out.